Howdy, friend. Sam Houston here, hoping you're living in high cotton. And if you're lucky enough to be in Texas, I know you're most of the way there. Now enjoy your daily dose of Texas history and Texas pride.
Howdy, friend. Welcome back to the Feed Bandit podcast and your Texas History Roundup for February 20th. In 1685, René Robert Cavelier, Sieur de La Salle's expedition of 280 people landed at Matagorda Bay. The expedition planned to establish a new French settlement near the mouth of the Mississippi River, but mistook their destination. La Salle established Fort St. Louis, named for King Louis XIV, on the Garcetus River. The settlement was troubled by Indians and disease, and La Salle was killed on March 19, 1687, by Pierre du Haut, a disenchanted expedition member. The fort deteriorated, and only 2 people were found alive when the site was discovered by the Spanish 2 years later. However, La Salle's expedition sparked Spain's colonization of the region, gave France a claim to Texas, and later permitted the United States to argue that Texas was part of the Louisiana Purchase. In 1836, Erasmo Seguin in San Antonio learned from scouts that General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna's vanguard of 1,500 cavalry under General Joaquin Ramirez de Sesma had crossed the Rio Grande 3 days earlier. This is consistent with the earlier report on February 16th. In 1836 as well, Deleu Rose, who was 11 years old and whose family had settled near Stafford's Point, recorded in her diary that her mother had packed bedding, clothes, and provisions ready for evacuation, a prelude to the runaway scrape. In 1871, Governor Edmund J. Davis imposed martial law in Walker County following the killing of a freedman and the arrest and conviction of 3 whites. One of those convicted was Nathaniel Outlaw, who escaped in a gunfight aided by local citizens. After Davis imposed martial law, 10 men were arrested and 7 were convicted, including Sheriff Cyrus Hess, for complicity in the jailbreaks. Except for Hess, all the defendants, including Outlaw, were pardoned. These actions by Davis drew sharp criticism from both sides, those who opposed his Republican administration, as well as his usual supporters for the pardon of Outlaw. In 1874, the Texas Senate confirmed the election of Walter M. Burton. Burton had come to Texas as a slave of Thomas Burton and had been taught to read and write. After emancipation, he bought substantial acreage from his former owner and became wealthy and influential in Fort Bend County. In his first campaign for Senate in 1873, a white Democrat contested his win, and it was not until well into the session that his election was confirmed. Burton won again and served 7 years in the Senate. His accomplishments included a bill that called for the establishment of Prairie View Normal School. Burton passed away in 1913. In 1915, this day, a revolution was to begin in West Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, and Colorado from the United States under the Plan of San Diego. The plan was hatched in a Monterrey, Mexico jail and signed in the Texas town of San Diego on January 6th. The liberated states were to form a republic and possibly be annexed by Mexico. There was no major revolution, but raids did occur in several South Texas towns. By June, the raids ended, but the plan intensified racial conflict in South Texas. In 1966, Admiral Chester W. Nimitz died and was buried in Golden Gate Cemetery, San Bruno, California. Nimitz, who was born in 1885 in Fredericksburg, was the commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet during World War II. The Nimitz Museum in Fredericksburg is named in his honor. And finally, in 1989, the exhibit on President John F. Kennedy's assassination opened on the 6th floor of the Texas Schoolbook Depository in Dallas. It's a very interesting museum. I wonder, however, do you believe that the conclusion of the Warren Commission was what actually happened? Or is it a much more nefarious situation, going much deeper into the bowels of government? I don't think anyone will really ever know, but what I do know is whenever the lips are moving of any government official, it probably means they're lying. So you really cannot believe anything, or you must take with a grain of salt any official commission conclusions that come from any official government commission are, So just be mindful, be wary, be on guard at all times, and take with a gigantic mine of salt anything the government says. That's just a good rule of thumb in life, I would think. All right. Well, with that was your Texas History Roundup for February 20th. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you back here tomorrow on the next one. All right, you take care.
Well, there you have it. If you like our podcast, check us out at feedbandit.com. There you'll find awesome Texas First outdoors gear and apparel. Your purchase helps support the bandits and keeps this podcast on the air, fighting for you and for Texas. Remember, preserve the tradition, protect the legacy. Until next time.